Hello everyone, so now we're going to begin our presentation, and the first place that we would like to begin is a broader scope of determining your instructional goals for making a video. Next slide. Within these set of goals, typically you should determine whether the class is going to be synchronous. For your lectures, are you going to simply record your lectures as if you were teaching a live class? Are you teaching a live class and just going to press record? Or maybe you like to have a recording that's not during class time, but something additional or something asynchronous, and kind of expanding upon your fully fledged lectures to create an inclusive environment so students who may miss your class or would benefit from a review session, those videos can really help. Maybe if you are a TA looking at the job market and want to have a portfolio of examples of your teaching in different subject matters, this would be a great way to have a physical copy for your job applications. It also is a great way to provide verbal feedback and student engagement. You'll see later with some extra features of Panopto, where you can really have meaningful and impactful engagement that cannot do so with Zoom. And finally, it also gives you a chance to have visual demonstrations with further clarity. And you have other additional features that we've discussed in other workshops, including screen share, whiteboard, annotating in Zoom, and just generally recording presentations and videos or group discussions. So we're going to focus on, at first, with Zoom. It's the one that we're most familiar with. And within this section, we'll be discussing Zoom within the context of where to locate it, where it stores your recordings, depending on how you access it, and also what Zoom can do and good best practices, whether it's a synchronous or asynchronous recording with Zoom. So you can locate Zoom in two ways. The first, you may have access, if you've attended any of our previous workshops, you may have accessed this very own Zoom meeting through our Sakai site, where you simply go to Tools. It has been enabled in Sakai with Zoom Meetings. You press Zoom Meetings and you can record your sessions right there as if you're teaching, or you are teaching a meeting with your students because you've already have your Sakai set up as a hub for your students to find all their materials, whether it's class meeting times or it's valuable resources. The second way is a way that you should be authenticating when it comes to Zoom if you're going to use your desktop or through your mobile device. And that's going to the duke.zoom.us website and signing in and scheduling your recording through there. And that's another way. It's good to authenticate before joining Zoom on your computer to make sure you have full access, including all the extra license features such as annotation, polling, and etc. that Duke's license covers. On the mobile, you will have to go through the SSO. Next slide. So if you go through Sakai to record your lectures or your video on teaching a certain subject, you can locate it here under the Zoom function and under the tab there where the red arrow is for cloud recordings. And it will have all the recordings stored right here. And you can also download it for other future use, including the job applications. Next slide. If you are accessing it through duke.zoom.us, your cloud recordings are under the recordings tab and can be found all here. And it's really nice when you have a lot of them, you're actually able to locate the individual one by the day of recording. And here you would be exporting the video in order to have it on your computer. So these are the two main ways of accessing and recording through Zoom. And I'm sure many of us are very familiar with it already between last spring, the summer, and already quite a few weeks into the fall. As for general reminder, with the next slide, I like to talk about some best video practices, particularly focusing with Zoom. And the first is designing your teacher space. That's probably one of the more important things to keep in mind before you turn your video on and before you press record, is knowing what's behind you. Are you in front of a bookshelf? Are you in front of a kitchen that you're sharing with 3 or 4 other roommates? Are you in a quiet space where you're able to clearly record and not have distractions, audio or visual? Are you also dressed professionally? Is there good lighting? Typically your lighting should be in front with no window or other lighting in the back where it would cause shadows of your face. Is your audio good? Be aware of distortion. And my best advice with the idea of your recording in your teaching space is that this has become your stage. It's your teacher persona and how you communicate effectively in the classroom. So be aware of the way you present yourself, both in your physical environment, your auditory environment, and also the way that you physically are dressed, speaking, and presenting yourself to your students and prospective job employers. Second, I would focus on creating your course content ahead of time. So I know some of us have experience with winging it in a lecture hall. Video becomes a very, very different beast because you're now also juggling a lot more technology at once. And it's not just your own chaos with your own computer, it's the chaos of your students. So make sure you practice and you have already predetermined your digital and analog content. And this could be either multiple cameras set up, whether to have a chalkboard or eraser board, or have a projector-like setup with your second camera. Or it could be also knowing what videos you're going to be playing, making sure you can share those videos with ease, with sound if needed. And also making sure that your visuals can be seen on a laptop that can range from 13 inches on the screen to 19 inches or a full TV monitor. So just be aware of what data you show, text, and the pixelation. Finally, the big question when it comes to Zoom, what type of teacher you are based on your recordings is, are you going to go the synchronous route or the asynchronous route? With Zoom, you have the ability to do either. And that's where its strength is with Zoom. With synchronous recordings, you're able to record the whole lecture and be able to present the lecture as it was in real time. Some things to remember is to acknowledge who will and can be recorded. You can see our session here and our participants. We currently have only the co-hosts and hosts recorded, while the rest of you are not being recorded until you speak up. Nice thing about synchronous recording, even though you are hitting record and just letting your session go on, I would recommend dividing the session or manually pausing the recording with stop or start into distinct chunks into a review section, your lecture section, homework, demonstrations, student presentations, Q&A, in order for the students to be able to go back when they're preparing for their midterms or papers and be able to say, I want to see the lecture, or I want to review the homework problem sets when I'm preparing for a test. When it's asynchronous recording, you have a lot more flexibility in recording smaller chunks. And it's ideally your 5 minutes is the best video length for any given topic in order to keep your students' attention, as well as making sure that these bite-sized portions are really succinct. You can also use other asynchronous tools to create a more authentic and customized experience. And also knowing that you can host this easily on WorkWire through Sakai is a great benefit as well. And with asynchronous tools, I would also, to round out that experience, think of forums, your email, other types of software available through Sakai and other Duke tools will really help students feel really included in the classroom, even with asynchronous learning. So now, I would like to hand this over to Brandon about Panopto. He'll be giving a great demonstration, and thank you so much, Brandon, for being here.
Happy to be here. I'm gonna try to make this demonstration as great as I can possibly make it. Here we go. So first and foremost, Panopto is supported locally by your school or department IT professionals. You have to contact them directly for help, or contact OIT service desk for more information. Once Panopto has been deployed by your department, you'll have a website that you can visit where you can download the actual software. So I'll show that to you right now, for at least the one for OIT. Let me take control over and share my screen. Actually, let me cancel that share. I'm going to share my whole desktop so I'm not hopping back and forth between things. All right, cool. Can everybody see? So this is what the actual Panopto online interface is, but it works in Congress with a actual software application that's downloaded. So down here is the Panopto software application. So whenever you open Panopto, these are some of the recordings that I've already done. You can see all of the recordings that you've already recorded, but you want to create a new recording. So today I'm going to go over a short tutorial about how to make a sandwich. So we're going to record a Panopto session about how to make a sandwich, and then we're going to put a quick question and answer quiz at the end, so you can see some of the power of the software application. So first, I'm going to create a new recording. And it's asking me, not everything's loaded, it's asking me what I want to use as a primary source and what I want to use as a secondary source. Your primary source is going to be your webcam. I have two web cameras on my computer, one that I'm using to interface with you, and I have another one here on my actual iMac desktop. I'm utilizing that one to prevent any kind of signal conflict. And then secondary sources, that's your desktop. So obviously, as you're delivering your presentation or you're showing things or whatever, you want to have your desktop available for recording. Okay, so I'm going to start recording here. All right, so now it's capturing two video streams that will be eventually uploaded to the cloud after I'm done with this recording session. I can start my keynote presentation now. I'm Brandon Johnson. This is how to make a sandwich. First step of making a sandwich is you need to get some bread. Second step, you got to have some contents, whether it's meat or peanut butter and jelly. Put the bread together. Third step, eat. Thank you for coming to my presentation. All right, now that's done, I'll press stop. And as you can see here, it says offline recording complete. Offline recordings are saved on your computer and can be updated later in managed recordings. And I just hit done. I can name the session, so I'll just name the session here just so I can remember. Sandwich tutorial. Okay. So now you see, here's where it says offline recording done. I'm going to sign into Panopto online so I can take you to where we already recorded something similar. And this is why this is part of having to ship into Panopto. You need to be authenticated and everything. It doesn't take long, I just gotta verify. Okay. There we go. So this is our previous How to Make a Sandwich session that existed. The one that I just did is in an offline recording mode, but it can be uploaded. It takes a little bit of time to do that. I don't want to hog the bandwidth. Even though it was a short video, I didn't want to hog the bandwidth. So, you know, this is already pre-recorded via another session that we already did. So as you can see at the bottom here, it actually goes through and looks at your Keynote slides and makes marker points throughout your presentation that reflect those Keynote slides. On the left-hand side here, you can hop between them, but you can also click on the slides down here. If I go to Edit, right here are all the folders, are all the previous recordings I've done. This is a recording that you know we were just looking at. We were looking at the finished video, but if I go to Edit, I can show the actual interface. So in the actual interface, we have the timeline down here that reflects the video. And then below that, we actually have the slides. And then we also have a quiz that we added at the end. To activate, or basically to do your editing, if I press play right now, you'll see the whole thing, the whole recording, previous recording in its entirety.
All right, so now I'm actively recording, I'm armed. I'm going to go over and I'm going to switch over to my Keynote presentation to pull that up on my desktop. I'm going to go ahead and hit play. All right, so now is where I'll just, you know, in my organic fashion, you know, present my information. I'm Brandon Johnson.
Okay, so I want to begin there. So everything that's dark, if I click and drag, I can choose where I want my video to begin and I want it to end. Everything that's dark is what's not going to be played back. All right, and I can preview my cuts during my playback by clicking on this tab right here. Okay.
Talk about.
So even if I click over here to play, it won't register that area anymore because that area is dead. It's not video that's actually going to be going into my final presentation. So you move your playhead to where you want it to begin. You click, you drag to the left of that. That omits everything previous to that point or prior to that point, and then you know it'll pick up from there. Actually, I'm going to just playhead back a little bit so I can get precise.
All right, so now is where I'll just, you know, in my organic fashion, you know, present my information.
Okay, so I'm going to drag this selection point right here.
I'm Brandon Johnson. Today we're going to talk about how to make a sandwich.
Now I'm going to hop to the end, and you can play back at multiple speeds. I can play back, you know, at 1x speed, all the way up to 2x speed.
Step one, you need bread. You're going to have something to put that constitutes a sandwich. So technically, you're going to need, we can debate whether or not a taco is a sandwich, but I don't want to get into that minutia. We're going to focus primarily on your traditional sandwich format. Bread, contents, consumption. So step one, you got your bread. 2, you got your contents. I'm a people are a jelly guy, but you may want some meat and some cheese in there. So step 2, you're going to need to have some contents and condiments.
All right. But you can also click on the timeline to move the playhead to where you want it to go as well.
Boom. This is where you eat it. Hope you all enjoyed my presentation on how to make a sandwich.
All right.
Okay.
All right. So now this whole highlighted session is this whole highlighted section is my entire presentation. Now, if I want to add a quiz at the completion of it, I'll delete this one I already had.
On how to make a sandwich.
All right, so at the very, very end, I want to add this quiz at this marker point. And so this here, and I can type the question up here. What's the first element of making a sandwich? And answer 1, bread. Answer 2, eat. Correct answer, bread. I press done. And I can choose options. I allow viewers to retake the quiz, show the grade after the quiz, allow review of correct answers and explanation, and whatnot. All right, so now that that's done, I can finish that and apply it. All right, so after all changes have been applied to the video, meaning this, and this is non-destructive. What I'm doing right now, as you can see, I came in with the previous session, the video was already recorded, and I set a new in, a new out, added a new quiz. So it's not something that's, that you're locked into or you're married to after you're done, making all of your corrections and adjustments and additions. Okay. So after I close this session, it will process the edits, the tests, the quizzes and everything, and then it will let me know when the session is ready. And so right now it says processing 100%. And it's getting ready to publish. Cool. And so here we are.
I'm Brendan Johnson. Today we're going to talk about how to make a sandwich, because that's important information everybody should know if they're going to survive in this world. All right, so first slide, how to make a sandwich. Step 1, you need bread. You're going to have something to put that constitutes a sandwich. And condiment, this is where you eat it. Hope you all enjoyed my presentation on how to make a sandwich.
Okay, and then after it's completed, the quiz, automatically pops up for people to take. Okay. Next step is sharing. If I want to share this, with my class or whatever, I have a few settings here. I can embed it, or I can send someone the link. I can choose permissions to that link and restrict it to people only with a DukeNet ID, with anybody else on the web. This is where you're going to import it into and integrate it into, Sakai and your other desktop learning applications. I can also download each of the video streams. All your videos are archived online, but I can download each of the video streams independently. Let's say I want to take this session into a third-party editor that is not Panopto. Panopto is a good online nonlinear editor, but you also have access, and I believe Sophia is going to share that information with you later on, to the Adobe Creative Cloud. The Adobe Creative Cloud has Adobe Premiere inside of it. It comes, at no cost. Well, it comes with your Duke credentials, so you don't have to pay anything extra for it. You can download it right now if you wanted to. But Adobe Creative Cloud has Adobe Premiere, Adobe After Effects, Adobe Audition. There's a few different audio, video editing applications within there. But Adobe Premiere would allow you to take these 2 video files and place them in there and edit those. But it's a lot more complex than Panopto. When you're done editing, you have to export it and upload it someplace else, whether it be, WarpWire or YouTube, but it's got to be hosted someplace else. Panopto hosts video for you. I can look at my quiz results for the quiz, see how many people have taken it, all the metrics for that. And yeah, captions. It doesn't do, it does some automatic machine captions, but you can also upload captions that can be included as well. So that being said, are there any questions? I'm gonna stop my sharing now. Are there any questions that anybody wants to ask about Panopto at this point, or do we want to save that for later?
I I've been going through most of the questions as they've come through. So we'll go ahead and transition to Anderson, and then we'll stop for questions. Continue just to type them in chat too.
Okay. I do want to answer Jacqueline's question. Yes, you can track who has watched the video based off of their logins.
Okay, so thank you for that. And I'm going to echo some similar things that have already been said, but specifically talking about how I linked my Panopto video to a Sakai site. So then this is a sample Panopto video that I did for the course Disease Through the Ages, which I taught this summer. And as you might recognize, this is the Panopto screen. So first thing I did, create the video in Panopto, similar to what's just been shown. I also made a quiz. I made quizzes in the middle of the video, and this is sort of more active participation. If you do have longer lectures, we recommend sort of, if you could chunk them in between 5 to 8 minutes, something like that. But particularly for the longer lectures, if you're worried about students as you're working remotely, simply just pressing a button and walking away or doing something else, these quizzes are helpful because the video itself stops and will not advance until the students answer them. So it is requiring them to participate. And so I chose multiple choice for this. You can also do fill in the blank or true false with Panopto. So that's another option for you. All right, so then how do you link it to Sakai? Similar to what Brandon said with the options of sharing and so on and so forth. This is just simply me pressing the add content button on the Sakai page. I press that button, then there's the option of embed content on the page. And from the Panopto screen, I copied my URL. I paste it in there, and then the video itself will be embedded in Sakai. So, okay, I've adjusted the picture slightly, so you should be able to see everything. This is from a Sakai site. Okay, so you could see this would be what your students would see. They would come, there would be the lessons, the objectives for the day, or the learning objectives. There's your homework. Oh, by the way, watch this video. And here's the video linked in to the Panopto site. Now, your students would need their net IDs and password. So make sure that they're aware of that. If not, or if the computer doesn't remember it, it'll show that login screen. And then simply they can access the video with the net ID and password, and then this is then linking to the Panopto site. Welcome back. Unfortunately, many high school textbooks still teach that superior weaponry was the main reason that Europeans conquered the Aztec and Inca empires. Now, while gunpowder and guns and steel swords certainly gave them an initial advantage, okay, and then you can see in the middle of the video, and this video is only just under a minute, but if we can imagine the sort of longer 8-10 minute video, something like that, you could put these questions to make sure the students are participating. Okay. So, according to the textbooks, why did Europeans manage to conquer the Americas? And I'll put guns, steel swords, other weapons. Yay, I got it right. That's good. We should instead focus on the impact of old world diseases. Smallpox not only left the body devastated with those characteristic pock marks after pustules filled with fluid scabbed over and fell off, but they also devastated the Native Americans psychologically, as many felt that their gods had abandoned them. Okay, and then here is a true false question, just to show you another type of question. And I phrased it somewhat awkwardly, again, with the idea being that they would actually have to read the question. So smallpox devastated Native peoples physically, but not psychologically. And that would be false. And then that's the end of the video.
To go back to the question on the analytics on video, Brandon, did you want to expand on that and show where they could actually see the analytics?
Yeah, I have no problem doing that. Hold on a second. Can everybody see? All right. So I can click on the stats here. Like under if you hover over any video, you get settings, share, edit, stats, delete. You've seen edit, you've seen the sharing, and settings are really, it's just basic information about the file. But stats are where you would see your analytics. So here's where you can see your views and download by day. Someone asked me, well, I was asked earlier about, whether or not you can see who saw it. This is where you would see it. However, individuals, if it's open to anybody on the internet, you're going to have a bunch of anonymous views. So that's one of the drawbacks to making a video, basically accessible to everybody on the internet, because your students can say, well, I watched it, from my grandma's house, on her computer, and I didn't log in or whatever. That's the, I guess, like new equivalent of the dog ate my homework. So that being said, you might want to make your videos require some kind of login if you want, accountability. That being said, you can not only see who watched it, but how long they watched it, and all these other beautiful analytic data points. Okay, that's pretty much it.
Yeah, great. Thanks so much. I thought that was a really good question. So, okay, Anderson, we'll go ahead and transition to Dayton then.
So with this in mind, we can just begin to talk about how best practices for video overall becomes a much more detailed when it comes to Panopto, because Panopto is a much more powerful device, and it functions much more for asynchronous video recordings with a lot of extra features. So my first advice would be to kind of focus on before recording, making sure you have all your ducks in a row. Make sure you have a script or an outline for your video. And especially if you need cue cards or something to help remind you to stay on track to fit within time constraints, large text can definitely help. And either having a second monitor or cue cards in front of you so that you're keeping eye contact with the camera, it can really help. Also, it's good to review and rehearse before pressing record. Memorizing is really great, but don't memorize it to the point where you're reciting a script. It's better to allow for some organic conversations or monologues rather than sticking to an outline and reading line by line. If you're using slides or performing live demos, also practice speaking while managing those other aspects of teaching. It allows you to make sure that you know the flow and whether your monologue fits within the confines of your lesson time. And it also allows you to see if any problems arise, whether it's time constraints again, or if it's something wrong with your software, or something goes wrong with any numerous things. It's also, with that in mind, it's also very good to check your equipment, both for audio and video. And it's best to try recording a couple of test runs before running your script, because it will give you an idea where the best light is. And also, if there's something weird with the video might lag, or the audio might lag. And you want to be aware of that before beginning to record your lesson and putting all that time and effort in. Finally, make sure you are specific within your script. Avoid generalizations and vague physical gestures, especially if you are recording on a lower quality webcam or microphone. A lot of your physical gestures could be distorted and actually slow down the video. And in generalizations, you sound much more to get put together if you're so specific as possible. For example, with dates, say the dates instead of, oh, a long time ago, say, oh, in 1896, this event happened. And that gives a lot more credence to what you're saying. Next slide. While recording, make sure you wear simple and professional clothing. Try to dress as if you would dress for a job interview, but just maybe a step more casual. Or if you want to keep that formal, wear that suit jacket. Try to complete your script for each slide or topic for easier editing. As Brandon demonstrated, Panopto is quite a powerful tool. You're able to record and edit very easily, but to make it much more easier on yourself and spend less time editing and giving you the ability to publish it much more readily, try to finish your script from slide to slide. That means you're able to jump cut to the next slide and not have glitches and jerky movements when you're speaking in the edited version. Pause in between the speaking, you're able to edit it out in post-production if you give enough pause. Maintain eye contact and good posture with the camera. Try not to slouch and try to make sure that when you're speaking straight into the camera. You're not looking off to your second or third monitors. Again, I will emphasize this once more. Beware of your video and audio quality. It will change on how your finished product turns out. And with that in mind, please be aware of gradual lighting changes and interruptions. Like in Zoom, I said beware of the light behind the window because it might create a shadow in front of your face, but it also will create some disturbances in your timeline. If you have started your recording, let's say around 6 o'clock, you might be recording for about 2 hours for your half-hour lecture. You don't want to be snipping those different takes with daylight and nighttime alternating back and forth. It can be a little confusing. And finally, some other additional resources that will help you with your, yes, thank you, Anderson. Additional resources that can help you learn more about Panopto and have more access for its references. Definitely check out the knowledge base articles, guides, and a request for Panopto can be found at this link here. And in this link, I will put that in the chat 1 second. Within this link, you can locate the guide and everything and more information, and including which IT individual to reach out to request access to Panopto, because your department needs to request access and be approved for that before you can yourself use the Panopto software. And the specific guides detailing all this and more. Next slide, Anderson. It's found within the text right here in the URL link called Panopto User Guide. See where that red arrow is, everybody. And if you are much more of a visual learner who likes to work alongside user guides or demonstrations in your manner of learning, next slide, we highly recommend the step-by-step video for recording, editing, and publishing called Panopto Record, Edit, and Publish. It's hosted on WorkWire on the Duke OIT website, and it's great for you to practice alongside someone and know where all the buttons are and everything. If you're that type of learner, like myself, it is incredibly helpful.